bring a sword.
We've now had enough time playing Destiny 2's new DLC, The Season of the Drifter, and if you've held off purchasing or waiting to jump back into the game, then I can give you my thoughts on whether or not it is worth it. So let's get into it. To be apprehensive about purchasing the new Season of the Drifter DLC if you didn't buy the annual pass is understandable. So why should you jump back in? Well, this DLC is probably one of the best DLCs they have released in recent memory. With Destiny's track record of releasing DLCs like the Curse of Osiris and the Warmind DLC, which was not particularly great, and Forsaken was a massive success for Bungie, something that we were all hoping for when they brought out the content. Now, Black Armory was, in my opinion, 2 steps back, so if you haven't bought the annual pass and you didn't get Black Armory and you're now considering coming back into it with the new Season of the Drifter, Black Armory is only going to offer you even more content for you to play with. Now, Season of the Drifter brings in a new Gambit Prime mode, the Reckoning, new power level, and a few other little items. So let's go over the new features. If you haven't been following what is in the DLC, I'll go over those quickly. Firstly, the big addition is Gambit Prime, a advanced level to the Gambit mode which came out with Forsaken. Instead of having 3 rounds to play, you only have 1 round. And that 1 round is slightly longer but same fundamentals. However, this time round you're playing with certain combat roles that you can pick to play with as you progress through Gambit Prime. And those modes are Reaper, Invader, Collector, and Sentry. Each have their own benefits and are pretty self-explanatory in their titles. The main fundamentals of Gambit Prime is to collect what they call synths, which you then use to go into the Reckoning to make gear for that class that you want to make. Now, the Reckoning is a 3-tier mode, which now the 3rd tier at time of making this is now available. And as you can guess, each tier is slightly harder than the last, with the benefits being more advanced and more powerful. Each tier has a recommended light level, not necessarily something that you have to follow, but I do recommend being somewhat close to that level. So tier 2 recommends that you're 670, so try and be around the 660 mark up if you're wanting to go into it. You can do it with a lower light level, but you're going to need a few people with you that are of that 670 area. Otherwise you're going to struggle, because the first part you should be able to get past no problem, but it's the second and third parts to the tier 2. So you can imagine that tier 3 will be even higher and more difficult, so you are going to want to stick to a relative light level that is close to the recommended. So once you complete those, as I said, you get gear, either weapons or armor, that will increase your power level and give you better gear for going back into Gambit Prime. So it's a little bit of a rinse and repeat grind. So you go into Gambit Prime, get your synths, go into the Reckoning, get your gear, go back into Gambit Prime, get more synths. You get where I'm going. If you are just jumping in to this, you are going to have the ability to fast track your power level. So the power level bounties that you can pick up from the Drifter, they will give you the opportunity to get to 640, which allows you to pretty much get into the Gambit Prime. Now, just stepping away from Season of the Drifter and going back to the Black Armory, this helps you a lot because there was a lot of criticism about the light level requirement for doing the forges in Black Armory. So this fixes that. So if you held off from playing any of the forges like I did, this does mean that you don't just have the Season of the Drifter content to play through as well. You have the Black Armory to grind out as well. So you've got Black Armory weaponry that you can chase while you grind out the Season of the Drifter content. Now, there are 2 additions that have just come in this week, and I'm going to leave the big one till last, but the first one is the Thorn Exotic. I'm not going to go into in this how to get it and how to do it, because there are already videos out there which I would suggest that you go and have a look at. I personally haven't picked up the Thorn Exotic yet. I plan on doing that this week. So that's just dropped and it's a 2.0 version on the original Thorn exotic hand cannon. So that is something to chase. There are some more exotics, I think, coming later in this DLC. But the big thing that released this week, which I touched on in another video, I'll leave the link down below and up in the card, and that is the Allegiance quest. Now, this has the potential to be a game changer for Destiny 2 and for the story of Destiny, with you picking to choose a side. So you're choosing between the Vanguard and the Drifter. So this has a benefit and maybe a negative aspect as well. So picking the Vanguard, you turn your back on the Drifter, and vice versa. Pick the Drifter, you turn your back on the Vanguard. However, it doesn't exactly turn you back on the Vanguard, because you can still go to Zavala and Ikora and everyone and still do all the things that you could do before. There's nothing in this quest that truly changes your allegiance yet. So I say yet because there's bound to be more content that's going to come out for this, and I'll touch on that in just a sec. So just remember, whichever character you pick to play with for that quest line, that character will for now be forever tied to the choice that you make. So if you have multiple characters, which most of us do, you can pick one to go with the Drifter and one to go with the Vanguard. I'm not sure how it's going to affect future DLCs with in terms of story, because they have said that this will have an effect later on. It could have an effect on your story, whether you get different missions than someone who's picked the Vanguard. But in terms of the Allegiance quest itself, it is very grindy in terms of, and well, very typical of Destiny's current format of doing quests. So it's very little in terms of story, more lore, and it is a grind, and it is a very long grind. Which sees you go and collect resources, get kills of a certain kind, and you do this for quite a while, and ultimately the result at the end, in my opinion, is it's a little bit negative, I guess you could say, because the rewards for both, and I picked the Drifter, but I've seen what rewards you get with the Vanguard, and to be quite honest, the rewards don't match how much time you have to put into doing this quest, so just keep that in mind when you're going into it. There is a chance that you can get a exotic in the role for the reward, so I would say that is a very low percentage. There are people who have gotten an exotic from this quest. I got a shotgun, which was lower light level than anything I had equipped, so it wasn't necessarily a reward that had me feeling like I had achieved a lot from that quest. So, but I'm still hopeful on it, because I think that there will be more to come in the next couple weeks. We still have the Revelry to come out, which might add a few more little notes to the side that you've picked. So with all of that that's there to play, I would say that this DLC is worth it. I would say that if you've been holding off from jumping back into this game, maybe you played Forsaken and then you looked at what was coming out and you didn't really get excited about it, don't worry, I was in that boat. I was exactly the same. This addition for Season of the Drifter, in my opinion, is a huge step forward. So hopefully the rest of the content that's coming out is going to be good. But for now, I would highly recommend coming back into the game, because I have probably put in maybe 10-20 hours into playing the new Gambit Prime and the Reckoning and doing the Allegiance quest and just literally going back around the map and doing things to level up. So it is fun. The grind is still there, so if you're kind of against that grind, then I would suggest maybe you don't rush into getting it, if that was something that was a game breaker for you. Unfortunately, the grind is still very real, but it's fun. I would say this is fun in terms of not really giving you too much in terms of story missions. The content is good. The Gambit Prime mode is a big step up on Gambit, something that I think it needed. I feel once you do Gambit Prime, you're not really going to play too much of the normal Gambit, maybe just to do the weeklies and the dailies and things, but you're probably going to jump into Gambit Prime more often than not and do the Reckoning. So that's my feel on it. We have more content coming out, as I said, so there is still a lot more to come. So yeah, that's my thought. It is worth it, as long as you're prepared for a little bit of a grind. There's a lot there to play with at the moment. Like I said, if you haven't been in since Forsaken, you've got Gambit Prime, Reckoning, and you can also do all of the Black Armory stuff as well. And that kind of just feeds into things that you do normally anyway, so it's not going to separate you from doing all this new stuff. So there's a lot there to play with at the moment. You've got hours and hours and hours of fun, and there is still more to come. And then we don't have to wait long until Redacted comes out, whatever that's going to be officially titled. So I'm expecting that this will feed into that. So Redacted, I'm going to think, is going to focus more on the good versus evil, light versus dark factor. So anyway, guys, if you could hit that subscribe button and that bell notification, and if you could hit that like button, you'd be doing me a huge favor. Also, guys, follow me on Twitter and on Twitch. Twitter for all my updates for my YouTube channel and for my streaming times on Twitch as well. And obviously follow me on Twitch so that you know when I'm streaming. So we'll leave it there for now. Until next time, take care, and I'll see you later.